Double check something. All right. Okay, guys, we should be ready to go. I'm going to give you a second. Pepper wants to come in. Puppy Pepper wants to come in. I'm going to give you a second to hop on. Let me open up my chat over here. All right, so making sure I'm sharing my screen, and let me just let my dog in, because if I don't, she's going to continue doing what she's doing. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Okay. You can come in. Hi. I don't think you can see her, but okay. Here we go. So let me know if you're here and you can hear me. As a reminder, depending on which of my platforms you're on, I sometimes can see your name if you say hello, and sometimes I can't. Let me reminder. There we go. Okay, so just making sure that my audio is working. Bye, Pepper. Okay, hold on. Pepper is not a fan of being locked out of the office, but she also can't decide where she wants to be. So here we go. All right, we're talking about cellular memories, and then I'm going to show you an ELV technique client demo at the end. So this is a methodology that I created after just diving into like every energy methodology that I could get my hands on. So it's really cool. The client tonight is 37, and she's dealing with some issues around having a hard time sleeping. So we're going to help her out. Yay. Good. Okay. All right. So, I posted this in a group somewhere, and someone said, how much does it cost and what is the link? So before we even I'll get started with that, I just want you to, take a moment with me, if you would. Just, I like to just have a moment of like feeling so much gratitude, because I don't ever want to get stuck in that space, that I'm talking about. And I've been in it a lot lately, because how when you're on Facebook or social media and you click on an ad, and then every single ad that you get is like the same thing but a different company. I had clicked on somebody's like templates or something. So I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff. You might have seen me post a couple of things. I'm like really experimenting with making, I need to rebrand some of my stuff. So I'm experimenting with making AI images. And in doing so, certain things are popping up on my Facebook, and I have to actually do a lot of energy work around not getting caught up in like the next thing. Like anyone, right? You register for a course or whatever you're involved in, and then the next thing you know, you like register for like 700 things, and you never actually do any of them. So I actually do energy work on myself a lot around that, because if I don't keep control of it, it becomes a pattern. Because I love learning, so I'm always like searching for things, but I have to be really careful. And also, right, not all content is the same content. And so I get into these things where I hop on these webinars and I start watching them, and I'll use the word ickiness, because it's spending like 30 minutes to an hour. I saw one the other day, it was 2 hours long. I'm like, really? I'm not gonna watch a webinar for 2 hours. Like maybe if it was a super in-depth like certification training, like when I was doing hypnosis or something, but I'm not gonna watch somebody's like spiel on cells for like 2 hours. Anyways, I don't personally like it when I get into something and the person is like using, kind of like that icky used car sales bait, where it's like, hey, I'm going to tell you all this, but I'm not going to give you any actual usable information. But thanks for watching my webinar for 35 minutes. And I'd love to have you buy my course. I know. Hello, Jan. Love and hugs to you too. I know that from like a marketing perspective, there's probably people out there that would be, not excited about that comment, but that's just not me. I'm a huge giver, and if I can give knowledge to other people, it costs me my time, but I understand the laws of universal energy. So the exchange of my time for making you feel better, to me, is a beautiful equal energy exchange. So sure, do I have courses? Yes. Do I have client personal sessions that I do? Yes. Do I have all of these things? Yes. But are you here tonight because I want to hook, line, and sinker you into signing up for something? No. So I just want to clear that off the table for anyone that's new here, because that's just not how I roll. That's not my platform. Okay. So we're going to talk about cellular memories, and I'm going to give you some things that you can do, but you're going to find that a lot of times just simply having an understanding of how things work gives you that like breakthrough moment. I call those the the aha moments of like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense to me right now. And it's that, kind of like that click that gets you to that spot, right? I tried to come out of the rabbit hole so many times after I went through all of the stuff that I went through in 2014 and 2017. And I don't know if you guys saw, like, I made a post on my page because I had gone for like my yearly physical. And isn't that so fun? You get older, you get to go in like once a year. Anyways, the doctor is like bringing up my weight, and he's like, you really need to get this under control. You've lost more weight since last year, and I'm concerned. And I was like, okay. But I know, because I'm wearing the same clothes. I'm able to maintain my weight consistently within I don't weigh myself anymore, but I'm going to say it's got to be like within 5 pounds. But right, if you weigh yourself in the morning and you weigh yourself in the afternoon, then you weigh yourself at night, like you can literally fluctuate. It's crazy. But if you think about how much like weight that is, but you can literally fluctuate easily 2 to 5 pounds. So he was like, oh, you weigh 2 pounds less than you did last year. And I was like, okay, like, right, maybe I'm here to do like 2 pounds isn't data enough to worry about any weight. But anyways, this is where my brain goes. I can't even remember why I was sharing this story, but going to the doctor anyway, I have these moments where it's like, and then it's gone. It'll come back in a minute. But just, I was showing you the graph of that. Oh yes. See, it comes back. But in 2014, I was really close to the same weight that I am now, but I was severely anorexic. Like I ate I didn't eat breakfast. And then for lunch and dinner, I always had the same thing. I had lettuce with kidney beans and salt and pepper on top. And that's what I ate twice a day. So super, super, super anorexic. Malnutrition is the spot that I was at. Whereas this time my weight is on track because I'm exercising every day and I'm eating healthy and I'm taking care of myself, right? Like they're two separate things. But, when I was coming through all of that stuff, just getting to a point where I understood, because before I was involved in energy work, I had no idea what it was. I had no idea how it worked. If you would have told me about it, I would have been like, okay, no, doesn't make any sense to me. I was in a very structured religion, but I was also completely miserable. So I think sometimes you have to get to that point. Like I was severely desperate for some happiness. And so I really didn't want to just drug myself up with depressants, antidepressants, and things to get me back to that space. I've watched too many people in my life go down that rabbit hole of being addicted to medications. And I personally believe there is a time and a place for everything. And so I encourage my clients, like sometimes you need it. You need that to get what I call the edge off, because if you can clear that edge for a second, get rid of the anxiety that's like overwhelming you, sometimes it can get you into the space where you can focus and get into a better place. So then you really can work on stuff. So you don't need the medication. But I want to make sure I caveat that, because if you are on medication, I don't think that there's anything wrong with it, but use it as a positive step to get to where you need to go. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about, cellular memories and how they work, because understanding it can really get you into a better space. Okay, so here we go. First of all, I have to be on the right screen to click through this. Now I lost my restream screen. And now I lost my other screen. Okay, hold on. Oh, the joys. I don't know where it went. It's one thing about having like multiple platforms, and I think it actually disappeared. So let me just open it again. Yeah. Oh, okay. I get it. So this has to be open over here. Cool beans. All right. It doesn't like that at all. I can't even minimize. All right. Well, I will just shrink it. So this is my first time using this cute little thing that I made my stuff in. And so apparently you can't have it open, or you can't minimize it on the other screen and have it presenting in the other one. So that's totally fine. But I literally have, it's like combat readiness with all of my different computer screens and trying to figure out where I am and making sure that you can see it. So who the heck am I? So this is me. I love my inner child. What part of my healing was finding that self again. If you get to know the real Amy, you get to see the happy, fun, soft side of me. If you don't get to know me, you get to see like the more harsher. They have a very balanced, like black and white, right? And I've had people tell me, like, you live in such a black and white world, and other people are in like this gray space. But for me, it's like all or none. But I love to create content. I love helping people. I love teaching. I created the ELV technique, which I'm going to show you at the end of this. I do have an amazing corporate job that I absolutely feel blessed. I love it as a quality supervisor. I'm a KC 135 pilot veteran, and I also am a certified hypnotherapist. And the best of all, most of all, a happiness creator. But I also have a master's degree in education leadership. And so I just love doing this. This is like my passion, my purposeful passion. So thanks for joining me on this journey. So let's dive into this. Okay, so first of all, you got to know what you got to know. What the heck is a cellular memory? All right, so basically go back to a space. You're like 4 years old and you're just so happy, or any time in your life where you're just so happy. By the way, that's a really cool technique if you're in a bad spot and you want to get back to a happy spot, is taking yourself out of your body in the moment and like literally imagining yourself in the happiest moment of your life, and like smelling and seeing and hearing everything that was in there will do a sensory stimulus and take you back to that space. And it's a really cool way to get yourself out of like feeling depressed. So you're so happy, you're living life like my little guy, you're flying a cute paper airplane. Boom, right? Life happens. You get that phone call. You know, I'm a mom. You get the phone call from your kids. I had somebody once tell me, turn your phone off at night if it's bothering you. Any person that has children, at least for me, once they're able to drive and they're leaving the house at night, I can't turn my phone off at night, right? Because it's like the what if scenario. So let's say an event happens. I remember like this time of the year, a few years ago, like my boiler went out on my house. Christmas time, a boiler. So I have a boiler system that runs water through the floors, and that's how it heats the house. So if I lose my boiler system, not only do I lose all my hot water, but I lose the heat in the house. So big deal, right? I live in northern Utah. It's like downwards in the tens, the teens at night, 40s in the day, depending on if we're lucky. It's cold. Not a time you want to be without water heat, heated water, hot water, or having heat in your house. It was really a big deal. And to replace the boiler system, I think we ended up having like a $13,000 bill in the middle of Christmas, right? So completely unexpected event that happened. So maybe I have a kumbaya. I'm able to come through it. I'm like, it's fine. You know, I like to talk myself out of stuff. So I'd be like, we'll file our taxes. We'll use our tax return to pay off the debt from the boiler. blah, blah, blah. You think all is well. One day later, 2 days later, 3 days later, suddenly you're just at the Walmart parking lot and someone, let's just even make it someone not even purposefully, a little kid has the shopping cart, accidentally runs it into the side of your car, right? And you're just like, boom, it's a trigger. And now, or let's even use something even smaller. Let's just say your dog ran away for 5 minutes, you got it back, but now suddenly you're just like on the Hot Mess Express. I have a cup like that. It's like, I don't know where it is, but it says Hot Mess Express. I love it. Anyways, but you're on like the Hot Mess Express, and then you're like, why am I feeling like this over something so small? And then, you burn dinner. I notice, like, when I get really tired, I hurt myself a lot. Not intentionally. That sounds like I'm self-sabotaging or physically harming. No, I mean, like, I'll just bump my arm on things or something like that. And so it just like, right, it starts adding. And I know for me, my kryptonite is, and anyone around me knows, like, I need to go to sleep. Like, someone needs to literally put me to bed, like a small child. But understanding that this is how these work. So the other thing we're going to talk about in a minute is pay attention to when we get to the influences part of how your body responds back to these spaces. So another thing that we need to really understand when we get into this is we have these negative core beliefs. So what is a negative core belief? So before the age of 7, things that people tell you, you really take them as truth, especially because the people that you are around before the age of 7 are typically your parents, your siblings, people that you are ingrained in a culture to be people that you should trust. They're the people that love you, the people that take care of you, teachers. The people that you're around are typically people that you're taught to respect. And so when they tell you something, this becomes stored as a core belief. And so something that we get told is that we remember things and we think of that as these memories are stored in our head. But we have lots of data, right? So my background in getting my master's degree, I actually have one in food safety and quality too, but is always taught, like, you don't just pipe off. By the way, I like to make up lots of words, but you don't just pipe off research. You don't just pipe off facts unless you have research to go with them. And right, I'm not talking about Wikipedia and Google. I'm talking about actual journal documents that have been peer reviewed, which means they have to have certain criteria, right? You can't just go say water is blue. You have to have some scientific data, repeatable data to show that this is a condition that can happen. So you have a hypothesis of what you think or what is not happening, and then the scientific data to back it up. So memories are stored in your head. If someone tells me no, they're not, I need you to show me how or why, okay? Because this is something I've been taught. So I'm just checking to make sure you're all here still. So memories are actually not stored in your head. So that is a wrong core belief. So they're actually stored in your body. And I like to think of them as like little, like my little guy here, like they're little like chemical bundles. And so depending on what they're made out of, some of your memories, let's say if I just like fall, I trip over a chair and, I'm going to have some physical trauma from that, but also probably some irritation energy because I tripped, is a lot different than the types of emotions that I'm going to store if I go and I'm in a significant car accident, right? So these little chemical bundles can be you can think of them in like vary in strength or size. Like how big of a zap would you get if you touched one, right? Those of us that have done crazy things that live like in the country where you've touched an electrical fence, like there's different types of shock that you're going to get, the strength off of something like that. And so just think of like, depending on what the situation is, but also these events accumulate over time. So let's say that I do trip and fall. And I did do this once when I was in high school. I fell down some stairs and like I just remember hitting a dryer because my parents had taken the washer or the dryer out of the house. I just remember falling down the stairs and like falling into the dryer. But it caused, you know, to have like a weak spot in that foot. And I don't have this happen anymore, but there for a long time, anytime I got stressed, my foot would just like buckle over and I would fall for no reason. Super embarrassing to just fall over for no reason. But it all comes back to things being stored in certain places. So when you get a weak spot in your body, this tends to be not always the case, but tends to be where you may create this little accumulation of stuff. So that means that every time there's like an event, that tends to be where your emotions go. So I know that this happens. So because I'm very aware of it, I know where mine accumulate. And I will get all my stresses will be right here. So like in my sinus area is where I tend to accumulate stressor. So most people probably, you see it like that stress in your head, or maybe it's that stress in the back of your neck along your shoulder lines, tends to be where people carry this, but it can be anywhere. I've had clients that sometimes like it's, you know, in their pelvic area, in their left knee. It just is different for everyone. But if you have these symptoms, proven that the stress and emotions and all of this stuff, they bundle up and they create the symptoms that we label as diseases. Okay. So let's take a look at some of these influences that we have. Oh yeah, I was going to tell you these two like cool case studies too. When you're thinking about things being stored in your noggin, it's kind of cool to look up some studies on like organ transplants, because that's kind of where they started also looking and being like, I think that some things are stored, like actually our heart has the ability to store memories. Our heart has the ability to feel. It's not just coming from the mind, but it's kind of cool if you dig specific organ transplant case from Claire Sylvia. She has a 1997 memoir where she talks about how she has this dream about this man. So she has a transplant. She has this dream about this man. She vividly sees him. And she ends up later hunting down the family of her transplant donor. And she ends up finding them and finds photos. And that her transplant donor was actually the man in her dreams. And so then we start doing like lots of research on like, are there memories stored in the heart that are actually transplanted between the transplant, the donor and the recipient? And you can find lots of cool studies on this. There's another one that I was reading on. Her name was Anne-Marie Switzer, and she was talking about how she just felt differently towards her family members after she had her transplant than she did before. That also she had like this different craving for pickles. And so there are times when people have had transplants and they have certain cravings, or they've taken on certain characteristics of a personality that they didn't have before. And then they're able to communicate with the donor's family, and that family will say, oh yeah, so-and-so loved this. And it's like an attribute that they've now picked up on. So it's very, very interesting. It's very cool to get into looking at some of those studies. So we're going to talk about some of the influences that affect your cellular memory, because once again, right, when you are aware of things that can affect your cellular memory, it gives you some control over those influences. So the first one is trauma. If you think and recall that memory and you haven't gone through the steps of healing, your body responds the same exact way. So before I was able to heal from my daughter passing away, I became a raging lunatic. Anytime that I was triggered by something, those openly admit, right? You'll hear me say it. Before I healed, I used my Facebook page as a platform to call people out that I felt like had hosed me over when my daughter died. Completely now understanding that that is a very unbalanced, unhealthy energy way to deal with stuff. But anytime I was recalling that, right, I was reliving that and all of those stresses, and your body can't tell the difference. If you haven't healed through those emotions and released those emotions from that event, when you go back to that space, it's no different to your body. When you start reliving those emotions are being set off, it's the same thing. And so the problem with that is when you're in that state of trauma, your body shuts down because it goes into a survival mechanism. And that allows you to send all of that energy, all of that oxygenated blood for you to be able to run, because it is a fight or flight. You hear that all the time, right? It's the fight or flight. And so the thing that most people don't understand about, well, what's going on there is not only is your body releasing all these chemicals so that you have this adrenaline rush so you can run from the source of, that's coming after you, whatever that danger is, but your body also stops digesting food because you need, when you eat something, a lot of times, like after, wow, I feel really cold or I feel really lethargic, like I want to take a nap. It's because that's where your body's sending all of that energy, all of that blood flow is being focused on your digestive system so you can digest your food. So when you're in fight or flight, or you're reliving these traumas and these stressors, you are damaging your body in so many ways because it's not getting everything that it needs to function. It's not designed. Yes, I forgot. Can I get the slides if you're giving them? Are you just asking for a copy of the slides because you can't see them? I think. Okay. I think if you're just listening, then you can't see them. But yeah, my slides are right here. Anyways, shoot me a message or send me an email. Because I want to make sure that I am sharing my screen and that you can see them. On my end, you can, so I hope. But maybe you just want a copy of them, which is totally doable. Okay. So that's the trauma one. So absorbed. I didn't hear about being able to absorb other people's things. Oh, yes. Okay. Absolutely. So they just got on a little bit late. So yes. And just so you know, some of my Facebook users, I can see your names, and some of them I can't, depending on which platform. So it just tells me you're a Facebook user. So I apologize. I'll be able to see your name after I get off here, but right now that's all I can see. Okay. So let's talk about absorbed. I didn't know that you could absorb things from other people until I started diving into this type of methodology. And then it all made complete sense to me. Why I cannot go into TJ Maxx like everyone else and go shopping and feel fine, right? If I go to this town, there's a lot of times, okay, perfect, Kim, yes, I will. A lot of times will go out in public and I'll have this like list of places that I'm going, right? I'm going to go to Hobby Lobby. I'm going to go to Walmart. I'm going to go to Winco to get my groceries. And I'm going to go over here to get this. And I have this like list. And literally there are times after I go to the one place, I'm like, I'm done. There's nothing else that matters enough for me to do it. I'll do it another day because I can't handle being out in public that long. The other day, I had someone come to my home that I wasn't prepared for. If someone comes to my house, I'm really big on like, I'll keep you on the porch. But if it's wintertime, I kind of really can't do that. So unless I super really know you and I have some time to like mentally prep, you can't just pop up in my house because it absolutely sets me off my rocker to allow people into my home, because this is such a sanctuary for me and it really can mess with my energy. I tried there for a hot minute to do client sessions in my house, and I felt like someone was literally putting an IV into my arm and sucking me dry when I allowed people into my office sitting in a chair. And it was something that was not worth it to me to try to overcome, because also people just want to talk, right? The people that are very social and extroverted, they just want to like share everything. And that is so against like my energy and my human design. So understanding that influences me being around a person that's being super negative triggers things, cellular memories. And so just understand that cellular memories can be triggered by things that you're absorbing, being very sensory stimulated, smelling. If you were, a car accident is such an easy one because there's so many things going on in a car accident with crunching of noises, smells of things burning. All of those can trigger memories. Now, cellular memories can also be inherited. So believe it or not, if you have an ancestor that was involved in like a super big accident, you could have this sensory stimulus to a smell that you have no idea why. Okay. And it's because of those coming through there. Beliefs. This one, I love this example. So things that are taught to you before, like I said, about the age of 7, when your cognitive belief system is really, it's really like a sponge. You believe everything that you're told. So here's one. Our parents and let me hide this. That's annoying. Our parents tell us things like, don't talk to strangers, which great. Right when you're 2 years old, there's some like value to that, running around talking to people that you don't know. But it teaches us to have social anxiety, because at what point in your life does someone come back and tell you when it's okay to talk to a stranger? I mean, I'm 44 and I'm probably okay to talk to a stranger, right? I have the capacity to understand like the difference between talking to a stranger in a dark alley in the middle of New York and talking to a stranger at Walmart because I can't find the green beans, right? But no one ever teaches us that there's a point in time where it's okay to talk to strangers. So then you go to a job interview and every single person in there that you're on an interview panel board with is a stranger, and you're freaking out because you have this cognitive belief that talking to strangers is dangerous. See how those beliefs trigger things that we have stored in cellular memories too. Maybe there was a time in my life where I talked to a stranger and something horrible happened. So now I'm reliving this emotional trauma that really isn't there. Okay. And beliefs, always remember, beliefs are perceptions. So when someone tells me, drinking eggnog is bad for you, it is for you because that's a belief that you have. And I'm using that as an example because eggnog just popped into my head. But if you believe that eggnog is bad for you to drink, it is bad for you to drink because that is your belief, and your body will align that that is exactly it. So when I have someone say, oh, when you do your ELF process, what kind of side effects happen? I'm not going to tell you any side effects happen, because if I say, oh, well, side effects of this are blah, 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 what am I doing? I'm ingraining into your little head that you should have an expectation that there are side effects from doing ELF. So no, if you don't want to have side effects, don't have an expectation that you're going to have side effects. You can overcome anything if you have more desire to overcome it than you do for it to happen. Okay. So beliefs are very, very, very changeable. And then here's the cool one. So DNA, guys, cognitive belief, right? That you're taught that DNA is something inherited, right? So we're all running around and you're told you have high cholesterol runs in your family. So just hearing that, you have an expectation that as I age, this is such a cognitive belief. As I age, my health should deteriorate, and I know that my family has high cholesterol. What am I totally lining myself up to do? Let my body deteriorate, and by a certain age, I'm expecting to have high cholesterol because that is the expectation that I have given myself. Keep in mind that you can reverse that, but we're just not taught to do it. So we have these expectations of these things, but DNA can be changed. You've just been taught that these are things that you're born with, and so they can't be changed. And this amazing study that I just absolutely love, okay, is from the Heart Math research study. So I want you to think about this. I want you to think about your genes, DNA. We call this the epigenetic landscape, okay? So depending on what your epigenetic landscape is or your environment, specific things in your genes can be turned off and on. So it's just like maintaining that control of when things are being turned off and on, is that sometimes our body turns things on because it's trying to do something good for us, but it's actually creating chaos in our physical body. So understanding that. But I love this study. Heart Math Institute takes DNA and puts them into some kind of thing that people can hold. So beaker, test tube, something like that. Okay. And they tell the people, I want you to have a really negative, horrifying thought. So we're going to call this a degrading thought. Okay. So they're holding this DNA in their hand. They have a degrading thought, and the researchers are able to take that DNA and they're able to analyze it. And guess what they find? You got it. The DNA has been damaged. Okay. Most of us will buy that, but there's like a part of you that when I tell you the opposite, you're like, nah, I don't know about that one. Same thing happens. If you take some damaged DNA and you have really positive thoughts based off of gratitude, and they tell them, like, think of something really positive. Now, I want you to go back for a second and remember that I told you that emotions are vibrational little sources, they're little chemicals. So, there's actually a chart that has been studied and proven that love and higher vibrational emotions that make you feel good, give you that like serotonin, serendipity feeling, they vibrate at a higher resonance than fear and worry. Those things that make you feel icky, they vibrate at a lower frequency. So feeling this beautiful, and if I had my book close by, I'd grab it for you, but there's this really cool study done with water in little crystallizations, and the water has labels on it for positive and negative words, and the crystals that form from the frozen water with the positive are beautiful, and the ones that form with the negative words are not so much. It's a really cool study, Japanese, I believe. I'm not going to quote it because I can't remember right off, but I have a whole book on it. But so they take the DNA in the tubes and they do very positive, and they see that the DNA can actually go from being degraded to being healed. And it's absolutely amazing. Okay. So cool stuff. These are things that influence your cellular memories. I love this quote. Okay. This thought of everything that I have wrong with me is genetic. This leads to victimization, that the illness and disease that run in families is propagated through the passing of genes associated with those attributes. Laboratory evidence shows that this is simply not true. And this is Dr. Bruce Lipton, and he does so much research around this stuff. And I'm going to come back to it. I just can't hammer it into you enough. What you believe is your reality. So if you're stuck in this space, I'm going to do I don't know if I'm going to do a whole course on it, or I'm going to do one of these on like why you're not healing, because it's so your belief system. You sit around and you want to, I'll just put it to you straightforward. There, you get stuck into this victim mindset, and it sounds horrible for me to say that, but there's so much truth around it. If you're blaming your situation on everybody else, you're never going to get out of it. Okay. So then somebody could be like, well, Amy, why don't I just think then? And fix it all. Like, I can laugh and make fun of that, but there's actually a lot to that. I've had people tell me before, like, you're just like in this like happy bubble and you never deal with reality. So you're just like living off into some fantasy land. So what? I'm going to say this, like, so what the hell if I am? I'm so much happier than you are. I don't care if it's a fantasy that I've made up. I really don't, because it's my belief, right? It's my belief that I have control over my feelings. It's my belief that I have control over my situations. I don't have control so much. And I'm even going to say that's not completely true, because I have definitely manipulated a lot of situations. I have control over my response to things. It doesn't mean that I don't have a refrigerator go out. It doesn't mean that I don't have things that I have to deal with that come up every day. But it's my reaction and my response to those things. And that's how I stay into this happy space. So yes, if you could, and it was that simple, just think happy thoughts, you will fix everything, because you're vibrating at this really high level and your health will follow along. Okay. So I will tell you that getting into a space of gratitude is the fastest way to get into a space of happy thinking. When I start feeling that I'm kind of down, or, right now we're almost in the middle of winter, living in Utah, there's not a lot of sun. It gets to be very, I can't think of the word, but when like kind of all of the smog comes and hangs, because we're in a valley, and it'll get kind of foggy and just sort of dreary day after day, and it's cold. I really have to go back to this space of gratitude. And I do stuff like, I know that it's almost winter solstice. I know that I'm almost halfway through winter, and I'll just align myself with thinking about all of the amazing things that I'm going to do in the spring and how excited I am. And I get myself into that space by just thinking like, okay, what can I do to get myself excited? Excitement is such a positive vibrational boost. So I have people be like, I don't understand your fascination for trinkets. And I do have my camera twisted a little bit, but this is like an 8-foot shelf back here, chock full of Trinket City. And I had somebody borrow my office today, and I was like, have fun in there. He's like, can I go in your office? I need to send some emails. He's visiting from corporate. And I was like, you sure can. I was like, enjoy yourself in there. Because my office is literally trinket filled. Like I have on my desk, I have a gigantic computer mat that's orange with spots on it, that has a blue dragon sitting in a pumpkin. It's a cute dragon, not a scary dragon, sitting in a pumpkin. So, I mean, it's like everywhere you look is just my office full of trinkets because they make me happy. They are my inner child being like, I love My Little Ponies, right? Like that inner child, that little 4-year-old that's like so excited because you've got a Squishable. As I literally look at like this little crocheted ghost that's sitting at my computer. I just love that kind of stuff. And it keeps me so happy. Where other people are like, that's so silly and stupid. It's really not. It's the things about my childhood that I maybe miss that I love, whatever you want to call it. But gratitude and finding little things that make you happy. My socks, right? What do I have socks on today? Oh, I have taco socks. Okay, so sometimes it takes a little patience, guys, because you have layers and layers of core beliefs and all kinds of stuff that have been, wound into you that you kind of have to start taking the string and like that little top and unwinding it. So be patient with yourself. If you need to take little steps, I want you to recognize the goal that you make every day. So let's say that I'm going to really make this really simple for you. Let's say that in a week's time, regularly for you looks like you only have enough energy to do your dishes once every 2 weeks. Okay. So let's say that you make it a goal that you're going to do your dishes twice every 2 weeks. So like once a week. If that is the goal and you are able to make that happen for yourself, I want you to congratulate yourself and make that a win. Don't compare yourself to the lady next door where you're like, well, she does her dishes 4 times a day. You're not her. No one cares. Don't do that to yourself. Okay. And I talk to my practitioners. We're going to go through a training on how dangerous that is to compare yourself to other people because it stops you from doing something. I have this really cool thing that I just wrote. The fear you don't face becomes your limit. Like what are you afraid of that's keeping you stuck there? But be patient with yourself because you'll see that only 0.006% of your brain is cognitive. And my kiddo ran through here before he went to work tonight and he was like, that cannot be real. Is that real? And I was like, absolutely. I said, that's the problem, right? That's why people struggle so much is because you're running the show with the wrong part of your noggin. Like your cognitive brain is there for certain things, but we use it for everything. And it's literally jacking you up. I'll use that word, jacking you up. It is. Your cognitive brain is jacking you up. So understanding that, and there's beautiful ways to get into the space of your cognitive mind, taking a back seat and allowing your subconscious to do things. So I used to absolutely beat myself up that I hated going out in public. And now I know that's my human design. Like I'm not designed to go out in public. I can stand in front of an entire auditorium of people and speak and teach, but I don't want to personally talk to anyone in that room. And I would have thought something was wrong with me. I need therapy to like overcome this. It's a paranoia. No, that is how I am. I can address a gigantic room of people and manipulate and uplift the energy of the room, but I don't want to converse with anyone on a one-on-one. And that is how I am designed. So learning to understand yourself, learning to love who you are instead of fighting through all of those things. Okay. I just want to make sure that before we go into my mini client session, that I didn't leave anything off that I really wanted to tell you. So really quickly, here's my plug, not a sales pitch, but I just want you to know how I can help you. So some of these things are free. You can join my free email list. I need to put my link to my link tree in my little description, but for right now, you can message me and I'll add you to my email list. I'm starting to work on that. So you're going to see those coming out. 100% will tell you, like, I haven't been nurturing and growing my email list like I should. You morning pick me up. So this one for the month of December is a little offish because I did this thing where I saved accidentally all of my vacation time at work. And so I'm trying to use it for the month of December. So sometimes my mornings are not usually I'm a very structured person. So when I go to work, I always get ready for work. I come in my office. I do my little videos that you see that are in my reels and my little shorts in my story that are like less than a minute. I always do those before I go to work. I just pop in my office, turn my light on, blah, 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 tell you something amazing, get my own vibe up for the day. And so it's a little bit more difficult when I'm at home. I'm just going to check something quick. Okay. Clues. Thank you. All right. You can certify as a practitioner. This cool method that I'm going to show you in a minute where we're releasing toxic phrases, negative core beliefs, inner child things, all kinds of stuff. It's a system that I teach called ELF. You can book a personal session with me. A lot of people charge upwards of $150 to $300 for the sessions that I do. I've been hounded for this one. You've heard me say it before where people are like, you don't charge enough because you don't value yourself. That is just completely not true. I charge you what I feel aligned to charge you. So my sessions are $67 and I do them all by email. So what does that mean? That means you don't even have to do anything. You just book a session with me. If you have specific things you want me to address, you send me what you would like me to address. And then with intention, we work with your subconscious. Energy has no limits. I actually have a PDF for that. If you're like, what? I have a PDF, super cool PDF. I will happily send you with research on how people connect subconsciously, energetically. It's how you like sit there and you're like, I know something just happened to my daughter. I felt it. Like, right? It's that. It's just, it's connecting with intention. So I connect with you with intention. I help your subconscious to figure out what it needs to release. It sometimes just needs a little help. And it's amazing, the types of things that you can clear away with that. And I just think it's super simple because you just send me an email. I do it. And then I'll email you back everything I find. And there's usually, like you'll see in a second when I do this little mini thing, there's going to be like six to seven chunks of things that we release in there. And we also replace the things that we release with something positive for you. Also, obviously, you're here joining me live on Monday. So you can join me live on my Facebook. You can go to my YouTube, Self-Sabotage Antidote. You can also take a course. I have courses, adding more courses. I love teaching, so you can take a course as well. But I just want you to notice, I love giving. So a lot of this stuff is free. I get it. If you're just not in that space, hop on in the mornings, get a little pick-me-up, hop on Mondays and learn because you got to start somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to this and I'm going to pull this over and ta-da, we're going to do a client session. Okay. So we're going to talk about my client. We have perfect amount of time. So my client, this is what your notes will look like. So I just ask you a few questions. You tell me if you have any emotional things that you might have pending that are bothering you. You have any physical things that are pending that are bothering you. Anything that you just don't really feel like fits in any of those. Because, right, sometimes we have things like I've worked with people from I can't sleep at night, which is this, some sleep issues, trouble with a 12-year-old, and then feeling depleted, right? And those. My very first client that I ever worked on, she hadn't spoken, and I'm not going to quote timelines here, but she had not spoken to her daughter. I know it was for years. I know it was for a substantial amount of time. And so she was very, troubled about that. And then she told me, she was like, the biggest problem that I have is my daughter just had a baby. And so it was breaking her heart, right? That her daughter had a baby and her daughter wouldn't talk to her. So she hadn't seen the baby, even though they live in the same location. So it's very sad. So we worked on the energy around the situation. So I've seen this lots of times. If you come to me and you're like, hey, I have a court case. Hey, I have a job interview. Hey, I have something going on. You can also work around the energies of anything. So everything has energies, and situations between people have energies, and court cases have lots of energies involved, and you have an energy cord with people, and you have an energy in your home and with your daughter and with your spouse and with everyone. So we worked on clearing energy around this connection with her. These are always really interesting when we do this because so we did that, and I always tell people, don't have an expectation of trying to see the results, because you can get your cognitive brain involved, right? And then you have this expectation of wanting something to happen so bad, you actually resist letting it happen. So I always tell people, do the session, take a deep breath, and just go on life like normal. And what usually happens is within a few days, a week or so, you'll suddenly be like, oh my gosh, I realized that I'm sleeping better. Oh my gosh, I realized my knee isn't hurting. And sometimes it's instantaneous. It can be, absolutely. But like, we lost a wallet a while ago. And so I did lots of energy work on calling this wallet back. And that one, I really was like, ooh, I'm calling it back. We really thought it was in the house. We were like trying to find it, but I just kept working on energy of calling this wallet back. And lo and behold, like 30 days later, random out of the blue, got contacted that this wallet was back. So I always tell people, like, give it some patience too, because sometimes it takes time for things to get into place. But when you put out in the universe a specific intention, it's the laws of universal energy. Bring that back to you. Also, I'm doing the 12 laws of universal energy as a YouTube segment. Is that what you would call it? Episodes? I don't know. You don't want to miss those, because when you understand how they work, you'll start acting completely different in your life, and you will start changing the things that are happening for you. And that's really cool. And no, you don't have to pay for those. Okay. So as I was talking about symptoms, I've worked on people literally that have like erectile dysfunction. I've worked on people that have issues with being able to walk, people with issues with their having like sensitivity to like cotton, all kinds of stuff. Like, you name it, it can be worked on, literally. So we're working with our client tonight. So let me just get and make sure that we have contact so that we can ask questions. Okay. All right. So, sleep issues, trouble with their 12-year-old son, and feeling depleted. So usually when I do this, I channel in through intuitive sources what's the best thing to work on first. But if you're a practitioner and you're doing energy work, then you'll see people do muscle testing. So like, this is a muscle testing technique that I started with. When I first started doing this, I muscle tested. It's just now that I've done it enough, I don't need to. The thing pops there. I call it a pop into the head. So you'll be able to see me type this, and let me, all right. So I just asked, like, what's the most beneficial question to go with? Energy around not feeling rested. And sometimes the thing that pops up is totally associated with the problem, and sometimes it's not at all. And that's why this works so well. It's because if you go into a doctor's office and you're not feeling able to sleep, no one's going to check to see if you have trapped anger in your elbow, okay? Because they don't know. So they don't know what they don't know. So this is how your notes will look when they come to you too. So energy around not feeling rested. So sometimes the things that are the negative underlying foundational issues come to me first, and sometimes the things that need to be balanced come first. This is just how my process works for me. And so we're going to go through and see what we have. So I can actually see number 3, which, just know, I teach my my practitioners to do this in like a specific format, but my brain just goes all over when I'm receiving intuitive stuff. So it doesn't really so much matter my order, but I can see a toxin from a plastic manufacturing process. Okay, now I have this cool little Google document that has all of this in it, so my practitioners can muscle test their way through it. So they would just say like, "Oh, is the energy that I'm looking for on page 4, yes or no?" And then like they can find them based off of like alphabet things or numbers, depending on how they're listed in there, because that's just how awesome energy stuff is. Because the universe doesn't have restrictions like that. That's your cognitive mind that's like, wait, what? How would it do that? So, anyways, I can actually see there's an event that happened. So if I'm doing client sessions, I don't always ask for an age, but if it just pops right up, I'll tell you what it is. So this is age 5. This is from a recurring, might be reoccurring. I don't know. I don't worry about spelling. I know that drives some of you crazy. By the way, when people are like, I can't stand when people can't spell. That's like such a negative core belief of thinking that spelling actually literally has anything to do with anything, because it really doesn't. It's a form of communication, and that's all it is. Somebody gave value to a word, and but I've heard people be like, well, I can't take you seriously because you have too many spelling errors. That is your negative core belief, trapping you into a box. So you should maybe look into that. Okay, melatonin. Because you know what? Your subconscious mind doesn't give a hootalolly about if melatonin is spelled right. It knows what it is. Okay. There's actually another one that I need to switch in here. I'm not going to worry about my numbers being in correct order, because once again, that doesn't matter. It's really hard to type with my microphone in front of me. This is supposed to be tryptophan synthesis. Okay. Oh yeah, I always usually turn my camera off when I do this because I make really weird faces, but it's okay. I'll let you see me be weird. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll fix that later. I can see a 6, but I can't tell what it is. I can see a 7, but I'm not sure. Yep. Ancestral. Remember when I told you that things can be inherited? So ancestral, interesting. This is a trauma from being asleep during smoke inhalation of some type. Okay. I don't really need to know any more than that, but I can now see 6 is left bronchus and the right. Oh, let's see. Kind of cool to know. Where did this ancestral trauma come from? So this dad's side, back 17. Yeah, 17 generations. So what's really cool is when you clear these away, it clears from everyone. If you have intention to, clears from everyone that it's affected from you back. So I always call this like really cool thing with clearing your ancestor stuff and helping them, but also you're stopping it from going anywhere further. And I've actually had instances where you can have an entity attachment. I talk about this a lot because people like to think of like too much cinema. It's hot in here. I take my socks off. Too much cinema where they're like, entities, like, creepy horror films. No, like sometimes when you have an attachment, it's an ancestor that needs you to help them release something. Okay. So, usually I don't number some of these negative core beliefs. So the things that are on the bottom of the notes, I don't usually number because they're like the underlying rocks. They're the foundations for why are these things all unbalanced in the body. Negative core belief of darkness is unsafe. So it's kind of interesting because, and let me just see. I'm going to ask. So she is saying that actually she's correlating that when she's laying down, she does feel like she has a hard time breathing sometimes, but that's not something she had initially told me. So this is cool stuff. She just said, yeah, and then having a fear of the dark. So we just found that one, right? Negative core belief, darkness is unsafe. It said mostly in childhood. You have a toxic phrase. So toxic phrases can be things that are told to you. They can be things that you heard. They can be things that you read. They're just a little bit different than a negative core belief. They're just usually things that you overhear other people say or were told to you. And this one's random. You are nothing without me. Anybody been told that one before? You are nothing without me. Now, I'm going to say caveat, everything that you find that you are working on doesn't always have a linear structure because, as I mentioned, think of the top unwinding, things add on to each other. So remember how we talked about that at the beginning, like the cellular memories? I had an event happen when I was 5, and then when I was 10, I drank something and it had a toxin from a plastic manufacturing process. And then on top of that, I'm adding that I have some ancestral trauma that's affecting my lungs. So see how they kind of like, they all add up, like, right? It's like thinking about how you gain weight. Like you don't gain 35 pounds in one day. It's stuff building and building and building on top of each other. And then there's going to be something in your life that potentially triggers that like little bundle of stuff, and it creates that little fire. And so we're not always like super aware of it. So there's also a blocked emotion in here, specifically fear. And then there's one more negative energy. So it's the negative energy from being left alone in the dark. Okay. So this is the little group. When I talk about little groups, so I'm just checking and saying, is there anything else that we need to release from this little group? There's not. Okay, so I'm just gonna be with my client, see, so does some of this make sense, and see, some of it she can probably connect to some things and some of it she might not be able to. And it doesn't matter. Your cognitive mind does not need to be part of this process. It's just cool if you're like, oh, I remember when I was 16, this happened. Okay. Now, when I'm doing a session, I do this with all intention. Different practitioners do it differently because it's based off of, once again, your belief system. So guess what? At one point, I realized that I needed to be able to do this without stopping and typing. And so I actually, with intention, use my words. Okay, so negative energy from, with intention, we're clearing this. We're clearing locked emotion of fear, allowing that to release, bringing in beautiful energy from the top of the crown chakra, down through the governing meridian, and we're just releasing this all out through the feet. And you do this however works for you. If you're a practitioner, some people like to do it out through your hands. Darkness is unsafe. Releasing ancestral energy through all dimensions of time and space for everyone, past, present, future. And then we're going to balance or clear. No, we just need to balance. Going to balance the left. Body loves to be in a state of homeostasis. We're going to balance the right. Sometimes you'll find that these have a pH issue going on. We're going to clear the toxins from the plastic. We're going to clear the event. We're going to balance synthesis and balance melatonin, all with intention. And sometimes, you'll see me do this with my hands, all with intention for these to be released beautifully, peacefully. Okay, so then I'm going to give you an example of something. So when I'm finished, your subconscious will give me something beautiful to replace the things that we remove. I'm in alignment with the laws of universal energy to recognize my capability and to receive can't talk and see it when I am in a state of rest. Okay, so I don't put a lot of cognitive process into this. I just see what their subconscious will allow me to. So sometimes I have to go back and read it and then fix the wording if it doesn't make sense. I'm in alignment with the laws of universal energy to recognize my capability to receive divine inspiration when I am in a state of rest. I release without resistance any feelings of being unsafe doing so. So that makes complete sense to what her issue is. And when I do this with you, and I'm going to finish her session. So I'm not just going to leave her with one. So she'll get like 6 more things, and then I will place this affirmation in. I can just sometimes see them before I get to the end. So really cool. Okay, there you go, you guys. I'm so excited that you were able to hop on here. I do not do person live Zooms anymore when I do this. And the reason for that is when I have to stop and talk and explain this to a client, it takes away so much of my ability to channel in stuff that I have to focus so much on talking that I can't see as well. So it's literally, there was a time where I was like, no, offer both email and lives, and then, or emails and phone calls or emails and Zooms. And I realized like I'm doing you a disservice because I can't see as well. It's just that people have to get over that because they want that like connection of like talking, and they like, some people just like that, right? But what happens is it becomes a therapy session, and that's not what it's about. So I really don't need to be talking to you. So that's why I do them via emails, and you can just send me whatever issues you have. And then I go through this process, and then I'll email you back what I find. And you're welcome to make it as detailed or not detailed as you want. You don't have to send me anything if you don't want to. But yes, so I don't do those anymore because it really, really messes with my own energy. And it's not worth the amount of energy that I have to spend to try to keep that separation. I just can't see as well. So there you go. All right, you guys, I am sending you so much beautiful, amazing energy. I will see you next week on our Monday Live. If you are in my practitioner course, is it the third Saturday, Sunday of the month this week? Yes. So we have practitioner only training. So if you are one of my ELV practitioners, then know that we have our own training coming up this weekend that I do only for my practitioners. That's based solely on these techniques as a practitioner. So I will see you then. And you guys, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your night. And thanks for hopping on.